Now I live in the United States, but I used to live in Thailand. I'm Teacher Mike, and today I'm going to make sure that you understand how to use used to, be used to, and get used to. Let's start with used to. But before we look at the grammar, I actually want to show you one quick thing about the pronunciation. Used to has a D, but we don't hear the D. No one actually says used to, because that's too difficult to say. We just say used to. Also, when to is followed by a verb, we don't actually say to, we say to. For example, I used to live in Thailand. Okay, but now let's look at how to use it. First, we have subject, used to, verb. This means that you did something in the past, but you do not do it anymore. You do not do it now. And you did this thing regularly. You did it again and again and again, not just one time. Tobias used to smoke cigarettes. He smoked 20 cigarettes every day for 15 years, but now he never smokes cigarettes. I used to work in a hotel. For 2 years, I worked in a hotel from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., 5 days per week. But now I don't work in a hotel anymore. So remember, if you went to Brazil one time in the past, you cannot use used to. You cannot say, I used to go to Brazil, because used to means that you went there many times. You went there again and again and again. If you want to say that you went somewhere one time, you can just say, I have been to. For example, I have been to Brazil. So yeah, used to is for repeated actions, again and again and again. However, we can also use used to for things that happened for a long, continuous period of time. Think about my original example. I used to live in Thailand. That's not a repeated action. However, it continued for a long period of time. It continued for 10 years. Another example of this is when we use nouns and adjectives instead of verbs. For this, we use subject used to be, noun or adjective. David used to be fat. He was fat for about 7 years, but now he's not fat. I used to be shy. When I was a child, I was shy, but now I'm not shy. One final thing that I want to mention here is that there is no D in used to when we make questions and negative sentences. We write, did you used to, not did you used to. But when speaking, you don't need to worry about that because, again, we never actually pronounce the D. Okay, now let's look at be used to and get used to. To be used to something means that you are comfortable with it because you have experienced it before. In the United States, we drive on the right-hand side of the road. So, I have a lot of experience driving on the right-hand side of the road. I don't have much experience driving on the left-hand side of the road. Because of this, I am used to driving on the right-hand side of the road. This means that I am comfortable doing it. It feels natural to me because I have done it many times before. I'm not used to driving on the left-hand side of the road. This means that it does not feel natural to me. I do not feel 100% comfortable doing it because I have not done it many times before. If we want to change from not being used to something to being used to something, we need to get used to it. To get used to something means to become more comfortable or more familiar with it. How do you get used to driving on the left-hand side of the road? You get used to it by doing it again and again. When I first moved to Thailand, I was not used to British accents. It was very difficult for me to understand what British people were saying to me. However, I worked with British people for many years, and I listened to them every day, so over time, I got used to their accents. If you move from a very hot country to a very cold country, at first, you probably will not be used to the weather. You will probably feel very cold and very uncomfortable because you have more experience with hot weather. But if you stay in that country for a few months or a few years, you will begin to get used to the weather. It will begin to feel more normal and more comfortable. So again, used to is for things that happened again and again in the past, or for things that happened for a long period of time in the past. If we have an adjective or noun, we use used to be. Be used to means that we are comfortable with something because we have experienced it many times before. And when we are talking about the change from not being used to something to being used to something, we use get used to. I hope you learned something today. Thank you for watching.